Welcome to Boys in the Hood TV. Today we're tapping in the streets of LA, and we're gonna be talking about an 18th Street member from smileydrive who targeted an LAPD officer and executed him. Now in my previous video, I discussed the war between 18th Street and Florencia 13 that took place in the 90s, and the violence that took place at the car show in 1998. Now that same exact year that brawl happened at the car show was the same exact year that an 18th Street member, Caterino Gonzalez, aka Termite, would have multiple run-ins with law enforcement, and two officers in particular will become his targets. Now Gonzalez hailed from one of 18th Street's most notorious violent blocks, which was Smiley Drive in West Adams area. Now this area is a hotbed for drug dealing, shooting, and robberies, and has been in the spotlight for authorities for a long time. Now this will lead LAPD officers to tasking and keeping a close eye on certain areas. Two officers from the gang task unit have been sent to monitor Smiley Drive gang members, which included Filiberto Cuesta and his partner, Gary Copeland. Now 26-year-old Officer Cuesta was one of the younger LAPD officers who had only been on the force for only 4 years, but had earned the respect of many veteran officers. Now 18th Street member Gonzalez had an arrest record that stemmed all the way back to 1994 with multiple arrests, mainly based on drug-related offenses. Now from 1996 to 1998, Officers Cuesta and Copeland had run-ins with Gonzalez on multiple occasions. And on April 1st of 1998, Gonzalez will be caught in possession of crack cocaine and will be arrested by both Copeland and Cuesta. Gonzalez will be found guilty and will be given probation after a short stint in the county jail. Now after this arrest, it is said that Gonzalez held a strong resentment to the LAPD, especially the officers who arrested him. Now only 4 months after being out on probation, Gonzalez will be detained once again by officers for drinking in public. He would be later transported to the police station and be cited, but then be released. Now once he was released, Gonzalez decided to ask Officer Copeland for a ride, but Copeland told him no. And that's when Gonzalez would call Copeland a punk-ass bitch. Now the following day while patrolling the area, Officer Copeland spotted a freshly spray-painted graffiti on the wall that said Termite and 18th Street, but directly below it had police X'd out. Now to authorities, this signified a possible murder attempt on an officer's life or some sort of retaliation. And Copeland believed that Gonzalez was in fact responsible for this tagging. Now days later on August 9th, Officer Copeland would contact his partner, Cuesta, to tell him about the graffiti that he believed that Gonzalez from 18th Street was targeting him. Now this particular night, Officer Cuesta will be partnering up with Officer Richard Gambodin. Cuesta, before his shift started, he would tell Officer Gambodin about the situation and that he believed that Gonzalez's probation should be revoked immediately because of the tagging on the wall. Now at around 12 a.m., 18th Street members, which included Gonzalez, showed up to a party on Carlin Street uninvited. Witnesses would state that Gonzalez was seen flashing his guns to females at this party. Not only that, according to one party goer, Gonzalez also claimed that he planned on taking out both officers, Copeland and Cuesta. Now sometime later, Officer Cuesta and his partner would drive near Carlin Street, and they would spot a group of men who they believed to be members of 18th Street going inside the home. Now, by the time they arrived, the 18th Street members had exited through the back of the house. Officer Cuesta would speak with the woman giving the party, Maria Guzman, who would tell the officers that she didn't want any of the gang members at the party. But Cuesta would let her know that she needed to shut this party down, not only due to the amount of people there, but the amount of noise that they were making coming from this party. Maria would then go on to tell the officers that she didn't believe anyone would actually leave the party as long as the officers were standing out in front. So Officer Cuesta and Gambodin decided to get back in their patrol car and drive around the block to act as if they left. The officers would then drive on West Haven Street directly behind the home to watch to see who was leaving the party. Officer Gambodin would then start calling for backup as Officer Cuesta continued to drive near DeRay and Carlin. Now not far from the officers was the 18th Street members walking down Cochran heading towards Carlin. That's when Gonzalez would spot the patrol car and pull out his gun and start blasting towards the cops. Officer Gambodin in this moment was just stepping out of the vehicle when he heard the 12 to 15 shots ringing out. Immediately, Officer Gabodin got back into the car and dug down as Officer Cuesta could be heard yelling out. The rear window of the patrol car was shattered as the car started to move forward and the patrol car crashed into another parked vehicle. Officer Gabodin would look over and notice that Officer Cuesta was slumped over and bleeding profusely from a bullet wound to the head. Gabodin put out his gun and hopped out and started shooting at Gonzalez and the other 18th Street members who started to run down the block. Eventually, backup would arrive along with the EMTs, and Officer Cuesta would be rushed to Cedar Medical Center, where he would begin to fight for his life. Unfortunately, at around 3:15 p.m., Officer Cuesta would be pronounced dead. The LAPD would dispatch over 200 officers, including the SWAT teams, to hit the streets to look for the 18th Street gang members who are responsible for this murder. And Gonzalez will be their main suspect because of the report made days prior by Officer Copeland. Now, officers would find a note left by 18th Street, exactly where the shooting had took place and Officer Cuesta had died at.
18th Street, all we ever asked for was a little respect. You belittle our father, mother, kill our brothers, sisters, batter our pride, and step on dignity. Retribution was inevitable. You call us animals and hoodlums. Animals are those who abuse power and authority. We're survivors. We push when pushed upon. The blue terror is at its end. An eye for an eye, a brother for a brother.
Now, the LAPD would not have any luck finding him, but they would execute a search warrant on his brother-in-law's home named Joel Loza, where Gonzalez had allegedly been seen not long after the party. While executing the search warrant, officers would find Gonzalez's ID card along with 154 rounds of ammunition. But Gonzalez was nowhere to be found. Now, days later, on August 11th, Joel Loza would speak to a detective about Gonzalez turning himself in. Now, not long after, Loza and Gonzalez would arrive at the LAPD, and Gonzalez would officially turn himself in. Now, during questioning, Gonzalez would waive his rights and began to talking to detectives. Gonzalez would admit that he was at the party the night of the shooting, but he claimed that he was not the shooter. Now, afterwards, the detectives would ask Gonzalez to take a polygraph test, which Gonzalez would agree to. And at some point in time, Gonzalez would bring up about having a public defender. But eventually, Gonzalez would spend the night there, and the next morning, he was given a polygraph test. Gonzalez would admit that he did, in fact, shoot Officer Cuesta. Now, after the test, a detective would ask him, once again, did he shoot Officer Cuesta? Once again, he would admit to the shooting. Eventually, 18th Street member Gonzalez would be charged with the murder of Officer Cuesta. During his trial, Gonzalez's attorney would ask that his confession during his interrogation be suppressed due to a violation of his Miranda rights. Now, this right here would lead to a lot of controversy during this trial because the detectives would testify that Gonzalez only mentioned the public defender and never once did he actually ask for his attorney in the moment. This motion to suppress his statements was denied. Now, the prosecution would claim that Gonzalez was playing games and knew exactly what he was doing when he was talking to the detectives during the interrogation. They simply believe this because he had a long rap sheet with the LAPD and a history of committing crimes. Now, multiple witnesses would come forward, which included a fellow 18th Street member, Agipito Negron. Now, Negron would testify that he was at the party with Gonzalez the night of the shooting, and he would state that he witnessed Gonzalez pull the gun out from his waistline and open fire on the officers. Also, a nearby neighbor who was out on her balcony would identify the group of 18th Street members, including Gonzalez, as the shooter, who she saw aim the gun and point at the police officer's car while firing off rounds. Now, by the end of this trial, Gonzalez was convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Now, in 2003, an appeal will be granted for Gonzalez due to the violation of his Miranda rights, and he was given a new trial, which meant that his first conviction was reversed. Now, his second trial will be heard in front of the Supreme Court in 2005, but the first-degree murder charge will still be upheld, and Gonzalez will still have to serve out a life sentence without the possibility of parole. I would like to thank everybody for tapping in, and I'll see y'all next time.